All right, get ready to dive into a classic, but with a digital twist. We're tackling how to win friends and influence people, but updated for the digital age. This is going to be good.
It's amazing how relevant these principles still are, even in our crazy connected world.
Right. We've got excerpts from How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age by Dale Carnegie and Associates. And just the idea itself is so interesting. Seems human nature hasn't changed that much. Let's see how these timeless strategies get a digital makeover.
The book starts strong talking about burying your boomerangs, especially online.
Okay, burying your boomerangs.
Yeah.
I like that analogy. What does that even mean in the digital world?
It's all about understanding that what you do online has a lasting impact. The book argues that it's way easier to ruin your reputation online than it was back in Dale Carnegie's time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Things move so fast online. And don't forget about screenshots.
Exactly. And they have this crazy example of this doctor in Canada who got hit with a huge fine just for posting some nasty stuff about his daughter's mom on Facebook.
Oof. Yeah, that's a hard lesson to learn. Freedom of speech is one thing, but think before you post.
For sure. And it's not just about being nice just 'cause. The book really digs into the psychology of influence here.
Yeah.
It points out how quickly being negative online can backfire, even for famous people. They bring up that soccer player, Ryan Babel, who tweeted that photoshopped picture of the referee in a rival team's jersey.
Oh, wow. Talk about a digital own goal. What happened?
He got benched and fined. Makes you think twice, huh? Even what seems like a harmless joke online can have serious consequences. The big takeaway: you gotta be smart about what you do online, especially if you want to be influential. What you post is going to be out there for a long time.
Like they say, the internet never forgets. So ditch the digital grenades, more like digital diplomacy.
Exactly. And that's where affirming others comes in, which the book really stresses in our often super negative digital world. Just think about it. Would you rather someone leave a mean comment or a thoughtful compliment?
A thoughtful compliment, definitely. But isn't the internet kind of built on being snarky and critical? How do we change that?
That's the challenge, right? The book says we need to make a conscious choice to switch things up. It's about choosing to be positive, even when it's easier to criticize. Why? Because it just works better when you want to connect with people and open their minds to new ideas.
Makes sense. So less digital shade, more digital sunshine. I like it.
Exactly. It's about strategically being positive to become influential and make genuine connections in a world that's often quick to judge and be negative.
Now that's a takeaway I can get behind. So how do we actually use this? Give us the goods.
It all starts with those little changes you make and how you interact online. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, try looking for what's good and point it out. Leave a nice comment on a blog post, maybe share an article that really resonated with you, or even just tell someone you appreciate their effort.
It's like that saying, you get more bees with honey. Except now it's more like, you get more likes with compliments, not complaints.
Exactly. It's about being generous in your digital interactions, you know? The book actually has this great story about it. Remember Muhammad Ali, that legendary boxer?
Of course, who could forget Muhammad Ali?
Well, there's this story where he meets this young kid who's going on about how he wants to be a doctor, and Ali starts asking him some playful questions about medicine, but the kid freezes up. And you know what Ali says? You're going to let a little thing like not knowing stuff stop you from being what you want to be.
That's so Ali. Instead of making the kid feel dumb, he encouraged him. So good.
Exactly. It really shows you how powerful affirmation can be. Instead of focusing on what the kid didn't know, Ali chose to focus on his dream, his aspiration. By doing that, he planted a seed.
So it's like we can all be like Muhammad Ali online, encouraging people and being positive. I like that a lot. But what about being genuinely interested in people online? The book talks about that too, right?
Yeah, it does. And it gets really interesting here, especially now with algorithms and targeted ads everywhere. The book argues that in the digital age, really connecting with other people is still super important, maybe even more important now. And it talks about this really cool concept called the name-based economy.
Name-based economy. Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
So it's this idea that with so much noise online, businesses who actually make an effort to know their customers, like really know them, build relationships with them, they have a big advantage. They use saddleback leather as an example, you know, those handmade leather bags.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them. They're really nice, but expensive.
Right. But their customers are super loyal, and not just because of the quality, it's about the connection they build with them. They actually encourage people to send in pictures of themselves with their bags, share their stories, and they actually respond and make it personal.
So it's like they're not just selling a bag, right?
Mm.
They're selling the experience, the feeling of being part of something.
Exactly. That's what makes them stand out. It reminds me of that story from the book about Mike, the cab driver. Remember that one?
Remind me what happened.
Okay, so Mike finds this phone in his cab, and it turns out it belongs to some CEO who's visiting from out of town. Now, Mike could have easily just turned it in, or let's be real, kept it, but he went above and beyond. He actually tracked the guy down to give it back, even though it was a total pain.
Now that's what I call service.
Right. And you know what? That small act of kindness made a huge difference. The CEO was so blown away that he not only became a loyal customer of Mike's cab company, but he also told everyone he knew about Mike.
Wow, the power of one little thing.
It really shows how much human connection still matters, even with all the technology we have. Every time we interact with someone, even in a small way, it's a chance to build trust and make a real impact.
It's like they say, people might not remember exactly what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
100%. And these days, everyone's bombarded with ads and people trying to sell them stuff. So that real human touch, that willingness to go the extra mile, is what makes people remember you.
So how do we apply this name-based economy idea to our own online lives, whether it's for work or personal stuff? What's the secret?
Well, remember what we were talking about earlier about ditching the sales pitch and finding the story? That's huge here.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
The book says that people can spot a sales pitch from a mile away. So instead of trying to hard sell people, you should focus on connecting with them on a human level. Share your story, your why, and invite them to be a part of it.
Okay, yeah, I get that. But how do you actually do that? How do you find the right story, the one that people are really going to respond to?
It starts with understanding who you're talking to and what they care about. What are their problems? What are they hoping for? What do they value? Once you get that, you can start creating a story that speaks to their needs on a deeper level. Like they give the example of Tom Mess shoes and their whole one-for-one model.
Oh, yeah, I love Tom. It does. Buy a pair, give a pair. It's so simple, but so brilliant.
Right. And it works because it's about something bigger than just buying shoes. It speaks to our desire to make a difference, to be part of something good.
So instead of being like, hey, look at me, look at my product, you're inviting people to join you. You're creating a shared purpose.
Exactly. And that's how you build real, lasting connections.
Love that. So it's not about giving up on technology. It's about using it to make those human connections even stronger. Now, that's a message that speaks to me.
It's powerful stuff. And speaking of connection, the book also talks about how important it is to bring warmth and empathy into our online interactions, which can be tricky.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that could be hard.
Mm.
It's easy for things to get lost when you're just typing on a screen. So how do we make our online communication more human?
That's a great question. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we're talking about bringing warmth and empathy into digital spaces, but that's tough when you're just looking at a screen. How do we even start doing that?
You're right. It definitely takes more effort to make that human connection digitally. But the book has some really practical tips. One thing they emphasize is how important your tone of voice is, even in written communication. It's crazy how much a few words can change things.
It really is. Like if you just write, okay, in an email, it could mean so many different things.
Totally. Remember that example from the book about the smiling email versus the frowning email? Imagine you need to ask a coworker for a favor. A smiling email is going to be friendly, appreciative of their time, respectful. But a frowning email, that could easily sound demanding, maybe even kind of rude. It all comes down to how you word things.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely sent a few frowning emails in my time. So how do we avoid doing that? How do we make our digital communication more approachable?
Well, it's about being intentional with your language. For example, the book talks about this doctor who always makes a point of introducing himself by his first name, and he asks his patients to do the same.
Interesting. Such a small thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I bet it makes patients feel more comfortable, especially in that kind of setting.
Exactly. It's about breaking down those walls and making people feel more connected, even in a professional environment. The book encourages you to think about your own communication style. What are those little changes you can make to bring in that warmth and connection, even in a digital exchange?
Yeah, it's like they say, a little kindness can go a long way. That makes a lot of sense. But what about when things go wrong online? Which, let's be real, happens to everyone. The book also talks about apologies, right?
Absolutely. And they make a really important point about owning up to your mistakes online, especially in the digital age where everything gets blown up. It's about taking responsibility, being honest, and not getting defensive, which can be hard when you feel like everyone's attacking you online.
Oh, totally. Everyone's a critic these days. So how do you deal with that?
The book really stresses the power of a genuine apology, especially when you do it publicly. They use Tiger Woods as an example of what not to do. Remember that whole scandal back in 2009?
Of course, it was everywhere.
Well, his initial response was just terrible. People thought it was so fake, and he didn't seem sorry at all, which obviously just made things worse.
It just goes to show you how badly you can mess things up if you don't know how to apologize properly.
Especially in the digital age where it's so easy for things to go viral.
Exactly. And the book contrasts that with examples of public figures who handled their public apologies well. The difference: they actually took responsibility and expressed real remorse. They focused on fixing things, not making excuses.
So less, I'm sorry you were offended, and more, I messed up and I'm truly sorry.
Exactly. And the book takes it even further by saying that this focus on empathy shouldn't just be for apologies. It should be how we approach all our interactions.
You mean trying to see things from the other person's point of view, even when it's hard? Absolutely. It's about putting yourself in the other person's shoes, even when you're just communicating through a screen. They share that powerful story about Armando Galarraga. Remember him?
Vaguely. Remind me.
He was a baseball pitcher, and he was this close to a perfect game, but the umpire made a bad call, and he lost it. It was a really tough moment, and you could tell the umpire felt awful about it. But you know what Galarraga did? Instead of getting mad, he actually hugged the umpire.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Talk about taking the high road.
I know, right? It's a perfect example of how choosing empathy, even when someone wrongs you, can create a powerful connection and even lead to forgiveness.
It's a good reminder that we're all human, even online.
Exactly. And that brings us to the last big idea from the book, which is appealing to noble motives, both in ourselves and in other people.
Okay, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
It's about remembering that deep down, we all want to make a difference in the world, to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
So it's less about what's in it for me and more about how can we work together to do something good.
Exactly. The book uses the example of the Cotton, the Fabric of Our Lives campaign. They completely changed how people saw cotton. They could have just talked about how soft it is, but they went deeper than that.
Oh yeah, I remember those ads. They were all about family and feeling good.
Exactly. They focused on the feeling, the experience, not just the product itself. They were appealing to something we all share, our human experience.
Genius. So again, it's not about throwing technology out the window. It's about using it to connect with people on a deeper level. Now, that's something I can get behind.
It's powerful stuff. And the book leaves you with this challenge. In every digital interaction, try to see the human on the other side of the screen. What are they hoping for? What do they need? What are they afraid of? Start there and see what happens.
Such a good point to end on. Even though we live in a digital world,
Yeah.
it's still those human connections that matter most. This has been an amazing deep dive. I've learned so much.
Me too. It's amazing how relevant these ideas still are even now.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll be back next time with another insightful exploration. Until then, happy connecting.